I'm Ronnie Eldridge. Welcome to Eldridge Company. We often refer to a political party's platform, but what exactly is that? Joyce Johnson, who was my guest just a couple of weeks ago, is a member of this year's Democratic Party platform, and I asked her to come back today to tell us what that means. Hello.
Hi, Ronnie. Good to see you again. Thank you. Thank you.
So you've done your job already.
Well, half the job. The platform, which is made up of 186 members from around the country, of which 156, I think, vote. And so, like New York State, there are 14 members of the platform, and so each state has its allocation based on something. And so, first part of the job was to go to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I thought we were going to Washington, was going to see family and all, but it was Pittsburgh. But we made that journey. That was the first chunk of the
nice city.
Very nice city. Very nice city. So it was a two-day affair. Went to Pittsburgh, and there is a drafting committee. So in advance of the members coming, our platform sort of follows it. Every 4 years there's a basic document that says this is who we are as Democrats, and then the new regime, the presumptive nominee, has his or her opportunity then to add value to it. Because frankly,
who writes the basic document?
The basic document is already prepared, but there's a drafting committee. That drafting committee has met before we came to Pittsburgh, easily half a dozen times. It was chaired by Governor Janet Napolitano of Arizona, and also Attorney General Susan Madrid. They were co-chairs of the drafting.
But the members were not members of the platform committee.
The members were not members of the platform committee. Yeah.
They're members of the DNC?
They're members, right. And some appointed from Obama, some appointed from Hillary. And I think their true value is they were brilliant people who would write well. And because much of what they wrote was incorporated from, I think I shared with you, this was the first time that there were over 2,000 hearings, platform committee hearings all around the country held. When we left and we had our 3 here in New York, we were talking about there was 1,600 at that time. Right. But subsequently, by the time we got to, and all of it was known on how many had been done, there were over 2,000 hearings. And you'll see this at convention, they did a tape of some of the platform meetings and some of the dialogue and discussion. Some of it was they were held in churches, in schools, in homes, in large arenas like we did. The one here in Brooklyn was 350 people. I think Cardozo was 150 or so, and then Queens about the same number. But what they did, and God knows they've been working night and day, more so than any other time, sort of collapse all of the findings from those 2,000 to basically come up with these are the principles which a Democratic Party at this day and time in 2008 are going to run on.
Do you think they really read them?
I cannot imagine, because the folks that we had here, we had folks compiled,
very high powered,
and edited, to submit to the DNC. But you know what? From what I saw in the tape, while you can tinker around the edges with 2,000 and whatever, there are some basic things that all of our Democrats, our Democrats and people all around the country say we want. We want to be, safe in our environment. And frankly, if you don't mind my reading, I'm going to share with you. I read the preamble as we were convening in.
Well, wait a minute. Let's just start. Did they send you a copy of the draft before you got there?
Yes.
So you had already read it?
Had already read it, and then it had been tinkered with much through amendments and stuff, and I think there were proposed some. So
when you got to Pittsburgh, you already had the proposed amendments?
No, we did not.
Oh, they were made from the floor, or you had to fill them in?
They were, when we got there, what we had initially was somewhat, it was far afield from what we had gotten in the packet. So we had the night to read the platform piece. And there was also the Friday night that we got there was a nice reception. Then they put us to work. Then they put us to work. The work again was, there are going to be all these amendments. And for those who showed up on site to say, I've got another 500 amendments. How do we resolve that? That's an exaggeration. But what they did, the drafters and the DNC and Obama campaigns invited anyone, before we go to the full meeting on Saturday, from 9 until 7 p.m., because with all of the proposed amendments, it could have been another, 3 days there. They invited anyone with amendments to simply, let's come and let's see if we can work them out. And they really were some style, some language, change in language.
Wasn't there something to say Iraq out of Iraq now?
Oh, there was in the beginning.
Yeah.
In the beginning. And so the Iraq now might have been the amendment to say a measured approach, but with implications, right. Iraq out of Iraq at some good reasonable time.
So you met all these people at a reception, and then you get these things, and you go upstairs to your rooms,
yes.
right? And you work on them. And then you assemble in the morning.
Yes.
You had breakfast all together?
No, we did not.
Oh.
No, we did not.
Yeah.
We did not have breakfast. There was a little huddling going on. You could tell. You know how we do in the Democratic Party. And you could tell where there were some folks huddling to who, I guess the guesstimate is that, the amendments that they proposed had not been worked out, and they were huddling on how to.
Did you know people there?
I did. Being an Obama person, I knew George Arthur, a number of people here.
Well, and especially since you put up, you got the slates together
exactly,
for the Obama people, so you knew everybody
I knew
from
everybody,
around the state. Did you know people from other states?
Did not, and that was the interesting piece, because someone said, because I have family in Virginia and in Maryland and South Carolina and Atlanta, Georgia, like you surely find someone that you know. But I did not. But the interesting part of it is that in all these gatherings, it was just, I think everyone is very excited about going. And so Deval Patrick was just so generous with his time. It was nice to meet him.
Do you wear name tags?
Yes, you do, yeah. And so everyone came with passing of cards and all. But it was a very serious business. Is it was somewhat, like I said, we had the reception. But we were talking, politics and governance. Everyone is certainly concerned about the face that we put on the first part of the convention proceedings, this meeting of the platform. It was aired on C-SPAN. So the
Friday night. I wish I had known. I didn't know that. I would have loved to have watched it. So how did you sit? You get into a room. How were you seated? Long
banquet tables, with an aisle. So there must have been, 10 banquet tables. We sat by, all of the folks from New York, in alphabetical order, much like I think we might find in Denver.
Yeah.
And then in the middle aisle, there were the co-chairs who were convening, obviously, from a dais. And then there was a mic in the middle. And if you had amendments or suggestions or comments about, any part of the platform amendment that was before, then you came up and spoke to it.
And did you go on?
No.
Did you get copies of each of the amendments?
Yeah, the copies of the amendments were the amount of time they must have spent, because there were some 180 some amendments, and inside the sheet there was the exact copy of what the amendment was, and basically it was really much. I can't say much ado about nothing, because that does a disservice to people who thought that their language piece or line change or a substantive
Sometimes
whatever.
they want to change a comma or this or that.
Or all of that. And so I think it was handled very, very efficiently. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in Denver.
It's going to be very efficient. I think conventions have changed so much. So they're very, in a way, controlled. I mean, they have to represent the general feelings of everybody, or else they'd have a rebellion. But they're pretty set, don't you think?
I do, because the Friday night before, after there was the reception, and then we met as a group at what I call the huddle, and without telling tales out of school, and since we're live, I'm going to telling tales out of school. We were given sort of the party line. Howard Dean was there, and certainly Jeff Berman from the Obama campaign, Michael Yaki, who was the platform convener, and basically said, look, tomorrow, C-SPAN is going to cover this gavel to gavel. You know, everyone is, oh, there was such anticipation of there being such a ruckus between the Clinton and the Obama teams. And you remember right from the beginning, if you could slice, like
the positions, the candidates' positions.
Right. And so, not so, because it's so close together.
Right.
And they were clear to say that much of there was good work. So there was talk about the camaraderie, the process that had gone forward. Much of Clinton and Obama's, folks worked together. Her ideas are fully incorporated into the platform and all of these massaging things. And then Howard Dean said, and so, with that, there is no expectation that this is going to be, the wild, wild west tomorrow. There is no need for that.
Well, weren't there any special interest groups like peace groups?
Lyndon LaRouche had a heavy presence there.
I don't mean that. That's interesting. Right.
I thought that was interesting as well.
Yeah.
Did
he have a presence with delegates too?
Not as delegates, but he had at least some 20 people there who were lobbying ferociously
for an amendment.
Yeah, for their amendment or just the philosophy. And there was a picture and much on their material of Franklin Roosevelt. And I remember Roosevelt, but somehow I don't remember connection to Roosevelt.
I don't think there was, right.
And LaRouche. And there was also some what I call trying to find people who were supportive, so they were recruiting.
Right. That's interesting.
And yeah.
So you didn't have a peace group that was really pushing for something?
No.
A gay and lesbian group that was pushing for marriage?
No.
So interesting.
Yeah.
How come? I mean, it's interesting because I don't know. I can't figure it out. Is it that the Democrats want so much to get rid of Bush so that from both camps they had people who were really loyal to the party and not to issues?
Well, that is smart. Two things. I think, that the notion of you can do your, there's still the chance. I think that, the big dance is in Denver.
Right.
So if you want exposure and visibility on this historic occasion,
right.
If I were to, marshal troops to make a stand, I would do that in Denver and perhaps not Pittsburgh.
But as a delegate, you would have heard from somebody already. Now, the only thing we get is invitations.
This is true. This is true.
Did you break it down from planks?
Plank to plank, yeah.
And a plank is a subject.
Under those, the very basic themes that were the focus of the American dream: jumpstart the economy and provide middle-class Americans immediate relief, empowering families for a new era. These are broad brush. Investing in American competitiveness and economic stewardship.
So they were the four headings, and underneath them are planks.
That's right.
Planks in a platform, if anybody, right, that's what they're called.
Right.
So then was each plank, did that come up for a vote?
The only thing that came up for a vote, because assuming that you did your good homework and read every single line of every single page, then what came up then are the amendments. And so there was only discussion around those things that someone said we need to change. And it could have been a member of the committee who, having read, the platform, said, nah, I don't like this, and the folks back home will not like this. And so many amendments were offered.
Were there changes made?
There were changes made, and there were changes made from what I call the manager's amendments. So now this pre-drafting, the managers are really the co-chairs of the platform, in the drafting committee norm. There were some 50 amendments made by them.
So that must mean that had been vetted. That's the new word.
Yes.
Which means investigated or shown to both Clinton people and Obama people.
Exactly.
And they came up with changes.
Exactly. So that was significant.
And were there debates over each amendment?
There were
explanations.
Explanations, because anyone who proposed an amendment that had not been previously worked out the night before, they came to podium, said, Madam So-and-so, Mr. So-and-so, please tell us what this is about, and they explained it. There were, I think, in the course of the day, maybe 15 or so people who had exceptions, you know. And the way that you, in order for an idea to come to the floor, at least 20% of the membership must rise to support your, you know, right to speak.
So to vote, you stand up.
Yeah, vote, stand up. So yes, you know, Joyce Johnson can offer this amendment. There was one that I started to, and it was really just a small piece, but it didn't add any great value. It was a personal thing, and so I didn't stand up and go to the might and objection. It happened to do, curiously enough, with there was mention of course, for the need to support historically black colleges, you know, and because for their survival and all that, which I absolutely agree with. Yeah. But in addition to historically black colleges, there are so many other private colleges that do such great work, and they're floundering as well. And so I thought it should be in addition to more universal, because education is education is education.
Right. But that was definitely targeted.
Yes.
Right. Instead of reparations or something, that's what they were going to give to an African-American pressure group or something.
Well, this was...
I get so cynical, it's terrible.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't know, because I'm trying to remember who proposed it.
It's all right.
Yeah. Interesting enough that there was the president of the National Education Association was there, and as I'm thinking, he was not the amendment proposer.
It's so different from the platform committee I was on, which was in 1972 when we had all the anti-Vietnam, the emerging women's movement, all this kind of stuff, and everybody was really pushing. And I remember Mayor Gibson from Newark.
Newark, sure.
He chaired the plank on housing. I was the plank on social services, I think. And he got up at about 2 o'clock in the morning, because we went all night long, and one of the recommendations of his panel was that people living in public housing should control that public housing. And I'm sitting next to Bob Novak, who's very conservative. He says, "Are you people crazy? You know." Anyway, it was very. And my platform, I had Doris Kearns, who was a graduate student. I think.
Oh my gosh!
She's sitting there with me, helping to write the final version.
Wow,
it was really
some heavyweight.
So it was in and out, and there were people all around, and it was really, you know.
Well, I think, going to your point, fundamentally, we agree so much, because that's, once again, on any one of our Democrats who were running, and then the two final, you know, the two top tier, Hillary and Barack, there was not that much of a difference between. And I think, you know, I heard Charlie Rangel say to someone, he was several weeks ago, and someone raised his hand and said, Upper West Sider said, "Don't you think that, you know, Barack Obama is moving too far to the middle and, you know, less progressive in some of these causes?" So Charlie Rangel said, "Well, you know, you know, you have to win in order to govern."
Right.
And so I think it is that pragmatism. And frankly, Ronnie, this is what I've been saying all along. For those of us who are better off than so many, we have the luxury to want to assert ourselves and our positions. But what we represent, though, are all the people who don't have us to speak for, you know, they can't speak for themselves. And so when we beat our chest with our ideals and hamper a candidate or a party with whatever, then the least of us is once again failed. I am absolutely for the least of us. So that pragmatist, yes.
I feel very strongly that way, and I didn't always feel that way.
Same here.
Yeah,
same
but
here.
We have to win this election.
Because we don't, you know, we'll be okay. We all say we're going to move, but we'll be fine. Yeah. But those on the bottom will not.
So you voted on each amendment.
Each amendment.
And then you voted generally on the whole document?
Yes, yeah.
And then that was
We clapped. It was 3:30 in the afternoon.
So fast.
Everyone is looking like, I can't believe this, because we'd all been, you know, prepared to go all night long with many fights. I didn't mention that a lot of the amendments, you know, they had been moments before withdrawn.
Right.
And so it was such an easy process. I hope C-SPAN didn't think it was boring, but in a manner speaking, it might have been boring.
So now that document will be given to all the delegates?
Yes.
And then there'll be a vote?
The Tuesday of the convention is when the platform committee does its thing again. So I don't know how the seating will be, whether, you know, we will talk, you know, we'll be sitting as a body and saying, okay, These are the people who have
It's going to be announced from the podium, and it's going to be a voice vote. I can assure. Let's bet. I don't think it'll be a roll call vote. But there were some very good, striking positions in that platform. What was some that you were pleased with? Well,
on housing and veterans. Who I think have been given really short shrift so much in their education and how they are treated when they come home, their loss of income. Yeah. They are not hardly made whole.
Right.
Their
citizenship.
And on and on and on. And so I was and that has never been an issue for me. And only in the most recent wars, and these young men and women have come back, and some of the horror stories and what we know that the Bush administration really gives lip service, to their cause and sacrifice, and nothing behind it. Also about America's position, I think there was more talk about our globalness in this platform, that we, this is the United States of America, but our position and our standing in the world's platform, a restoration of that, its prominence and how we are perceived around the world. The foreign policy aspect. And let me see what else I can think of.
Well, the women's plank was what people assumed there might be some trouble or something, but it strongly supported choice.
Yes, indeed.
It supported the ERA, which really fascinated me. Yes, that was really interesting.
I don't know, because I think that had been moving along the way all the while.
It's so interesting.
And I think that what I know, well, two things: what we know of Hillary, and what I know of Obama.
Yeah. That's a natural.
Yeah, it's a natural.
And it did mention Hillary Clinton's running and the historic nature
absolutely.
of the campaign.
So it really did, and so it was in some way, if you read the whole document, in addition to the general layout of what we're about, it was like a story of the process and evolution.
And in labor, they supported the check-off, the card check, rather than the union practice of unionizing employees through a card check system, which McCain has attacked in recent days. So that's another controversial thing.
Yeah.
I was very pleased to see that was supported in the platform.
Yes, yeah. There was one, I was trying to remember, 676, it had to do something.
676 is a number?
So, okay. Speaking of advocates, and was trying to remember what it was exactly they wanted to, but I don't. It escapes me this moment.
It was, the contraception also, not only the right of women to control their own bodies, but then the availability of contraception, that was also discussed.
It was, but you know what? I think that was in the previous platform.
Oh, that's interesting.
So a lot of the, for some odd reason, I'm on this show.
Yeah.
We had platform hearings.
Yeah.
So to some people, this is the first time there's ever been any talk of platform stuff, and so I've never paid attention to it like I have before. But a lot of this stuff has been
there for a long
Democratic platform. It has just been some,
It's never been talked about. I even wondered if there was still a platform.
Well, it has been always behind the closed doors. The platform committee. It's whatever, and you come to convention, and you do a half hour of work or a couple of hours of work, and then it's done. So
I just wanted to ask you a personal question, because people always think that we're very brave and everything else. Were you at all intimidated at the idea of this meeting and meeting all these people and sitting at the table having a feeling maybe I want to say something? Yeah.
Well, you know me, so the short answer is not really.
You never get intimidated.
I'm never intimidated.
I do.
I will never believe that in a million years.
I do. People don't know that, but I can be very nervous when I go to some of these things.
I felt privileged to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, more than anything else, and I really do believe it's my obligation to participate. And so I was, we were one of equals, everyone there was equal. Certainly, Janet Napolitano, Eleanor Holmes Norton, Howard Dean. But when all is said and done, I always say one of my pat lines, I shouldn't say it on the program, but Everybody puts on their pantyhose the same way I put on my pantyhose. That's the great
the feminine version of it, right?
That's exactly right. Exactly
That's a very good thing. I keep trying to say that to myself. You know, I'm just as smart as they are, or whatever it is. But I think it's changed as I've hit many years of doing this. So, do you expect to see people that you've met at the platform?
I do.
Committee again?
I mean, my God, we've exchanged emails, you know, already.
Oh, good.
And making arrangements to see one another. And I'm going to read the platform again because you know, much like you said, I like it. It was broad brush, and in traveling on the plane a couple of days before the night of, I think I was up to like 3 o'clock in the morning because you want to, be alert and
especially
know,
if you're not intimidated and you have the thought you may talk. I just remember when I was in our platform time, welfare rights was just organizing, George Wiley and everybody. So they were there really pushing.
Yeah.
The difference now would be, I think, that the welfare reform was a Clinton program, so nobody in the Democratic Party is going to criticize it, right?
Right.
Including our candidate, who the other day said,
well, you know what?
That he first opposed it and now he thinks it's not so bad.
This is, you know, all of this, and let's be real clear, this is the platform on which, you know, all of our Democrats will run, and he will run. But what happens on day one, depending on who's in the Congress, you know, how the composition, whether we have the might, will determine how much we can get done.
Did superdelegates have a vote?
No.
So they were the ones who didn't have a vote, but they were there.
Right.
And did you meet any candidates for office that you're going to help?
There was actually no, as I remember. No.
I met a woman that we became very friendly with over the years, and she ran for Congress in Iowa, but she didn't win, and then she later worked in the Carter White House.
Wow, that would have been a great opportunity for folks to, to network, get emails and stuff.
I'm sure we're going to see that at the convention.
Oh, there's going to be massive that when all of the, everyone in the world is having a party reception.
Well, I'm going to trail along with you since you're not intimidated. And thank you, Joyce, very much for this description. And we'll have to talk about how it all worked out another time.
Well, yes. Okay. All to the good in November 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Me either. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ronnie. This is
Bye-bye.
good. This is good.
If there are any people you'd like to hear and topics you'd like us to explore, please let me know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.